Well, good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Isabel Jennings for Your Life Matters News and Comment, Your Life Matters Wellness. My new little shtick, which makes a lot of sense to me, is I'm bringing you videos with sound, well-reasoned data broken down so that we all can understand it logically in order to promote knowledge, interaction, growth, and to unify us all. That's what I'm here for. So I just wanted to give you that. That's my new shtick, and I hope you subscribe to my YouTube page and check out all my other videos. I will give reference to some two other videos that pertain to this topic today, so you can go and double check the data. Again, I am a data geek, and I believe hopefully at my age I have some wisdom and knowledge to impart with you, and I'm very teachable. So but we just don't have to settle for anything that's thrown out in our faces, right? Okay, so the topic today is theories are not absolute, just like experimental anything is not a final product or solution. Nice title, huh? Theories are not absolute. They are not proven successful or whatever. There isn't a final outcome on a theory, people. Just like an experiment or experimental phase of something is not a final product or solution. Okay, so with that, I am revisiting the critical theories. Why? Because I don't think one go over what this is all about is enough for you, is enough for me to unlearn what we've been entrenched in and what we have been indoctrinated in. And I think it's very important that you and I get a good handle on the base of this theory or series of theories, which are not absolute. I'm trying to drill this into me and into you. A theory is not an absolute. Okay, so if we have a basis of critical theories and or we'll cross the big one that everybody is addressing, and why is everybody addressing that particular one, and move and grow and understand. So my sources, my number one source for the breakdown of critical theory so that you and I can understand it is Charlie Kirk. He is a data geek. I really love this young man, and I think that he is a fabulous person that can take such data that can be so intrinsically over my head, and put it in a place where, okay, I can grab this, I can break this down maybe even more for myself and for us to articulate and take into ourselves and unlearn some crap that we've learned. All right, so by that I'm going to give you a history, and I'm going to go to my video. My video is called Unlearning Critical Race Theory. So you can go back to a previous video that I did where I actually got more in depth with what Charlie Kirk was saying, but I'm going to, paraphrase that video at this point because it was from my own video, and in which I put Charlie Kirk as a major source. And so okay, so I'm playing with my pen here. Anyway, before I start, I have that whole concept of critical race theory, and then I went into just like experiments or experimental is not the final product or solution. Why did I do those two together? Because I believe that the issues that we're facing right now in the United States, these two issues are intertwined, and I'm going to show you how they are. Okay, and that's why I wanted to put it down. Let's see. These are intertwined as two primary focus issues in the United States, and the thrust of them being pushed forward uh, is just, it's a continuum that we're just getting mandated into believing these are the two primary main things that are main issues of our lives, and there's so much more that we are not paying attention to, because these two things are being intertwined and thrust forward in us, and there's a reason. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you, and let's define the critical race theory. Where does it come from? Well, what's a theory? Okay, a theory is a system of thought processes that enable us to test and plausibly enact themselves for the greater good, we hope. And the critical theories, they came from, well, they were introduced to the U.S. I'll give you that too. But the critical theories started from this. A bunch of people kind of back in the Nazi Germany time frame, they separated themselves from the Nazis, but they were communistic in their thought processes. And from the Frankfurt University, there was an offshoot called the Frankfurt School. And the people who started the Frankfurt School that had left the Nazi belief system or regime, whatever you want to call that, they actually started this school, and they did not have the Nazi beliefs, but they were Marxist-based theorists, and they were not patriots of the United States. They were anti-patriot. And the most famous person of this Marxist Frankfurt School was Herbert Cusack, and he started it. And basically, it was an ideology that basically said, and this is a theory, people. His ideology is a theory that says that the world is based on profiteering of business people, and basically he says all we are is just a bunch of almost Neanderthal. I kind of got that feeling from him. We're just a bunch of tribal groups, and he says color means everything. This is someone who said this. This is one person that started this in Frankfurt, Germany, with Marxist precepts. And Marxist always leads to communism, by the way, folks. And he says that the whole concept of science, mathematics, physics, business law, these are basically to push forth a white supremacist society indoctrination and success methodology. Whatever. So out of that theory, those theories, back in the 1960s, a very she's now known as probably the most influential person that has brought down our societal norms. And her name is Angela Davis. Look up Angela Davis, get some knowledge on who Angela Davis is, and embed who she is in your mindset so that you don't have to be like her. Okay, so she is the one, she was an academia person, and back in the 1960s, she actually met up with this guy, okay, the founder of the Frankfurt School of Marxism, that's what I'm going to call it, and she went over there and she brought these critical theories to the United States in the 60s, and she started going, because she was in academia and everybody she had this like education, this formal quote education that everybody thought was a god. And so they listened to her and they said, "Whoo, this makes a lot of sense." So she went about on tour, and she dropped her little seedlings of nuggets to academia, and it made itself in play in probably the Ivy Leagues. It probably made it all the way up to, well, all forms of colleges. She started there, I believe. It made itself into corporations. It made itself into business law. It made itself into even some church denominations. Okay, so as a result of Angela Davis, she started tossing this terminology of critical race theory out there. She tossed it out there, and it gained momentum, whether it was proven true or not, whether it stood the test of time or not. It fit her model. It fit her agenda. It made her popular. It threw a lot of bucks in her freaking pocketbook. It got her on the speaking tours. Get it? She got some big bucks, and then you throw this guy, whatever, Herbert in. He started touring with her too. He started making the De Niro. Okay, and because of that, they hopped around placing the seeds that would infiltrate your education, that will infiltrate how you behaved. Yes, they would. And it would infiltrate business law, corporate America, and yes, even like the Southern Baptists have adopted this, some sect of it. Okay, so I'm trying to tell you that our foundation on biblical principles, in God we trust, look at our Pledge of Allegiance, that was being eroded from us by this person, Angela Davis, pulled this crap and started infiltrating your mind. So what do you have? Over time, you have the National Education Association, which is a big freaking labor union. Come on, it's nothing short of that. You think it's your fundamental, they were going to take care of your needs. They have Teamsters, okay? All right, they have so much clout, and they annex themselves with the government, but now they are influencing what you're being taught, and they are implementing the models of critical race theory. Okay, so just to let you know a little bit about her, she, even back then, called herself a communist. She called herself a communist. And these people in the academia and all around were accepting her, okay, as a academia person, okay. Just to let you know, again, today, all of our children are being taught critical race theory. And it got its foundational start from Angela freaking Davis. Okay? All right, so basically, what does critical race theory say? And this came from Charlie Kirk. Critical race theory says it has 5 attributes. The first one is melanin is your master. He is saying, Charlie Kirk broke it down, that the first attribute to critical race theory is that melanin is your master, skin color matters. That's not what we say. Over here in the Western cultures, built on godly principles, hopefully, all people matter. All people matter. It's in our Constitution. We've got it from biblical principles saying that because God wasn't a respecter of people, Christ was not a respecter of people. And even under Martin Luther King said it's not the color of the person, it's their character and their integrity. So, I'm basically paraphrasing my previous video on this topic. Martin Luther King said we're all free. Well, Western culture believes everyone's free. Do you know what happens when everyone's free? We can easily listen to each other and unite. Okay? Anyway, I broke it down even more on our Western culture, where our belief systems in Judeo-Christian values come from. They come from Jesus Christ. And even Paul addressed the Philippians about the fact that we are all equal, Jew and Gentile, we're all equal. Augustine articulated this, that we are all free. Aquinas, he also enhanced the notion. He pushed it forward and made it his agenda. So, and we made this, all people are free, in our Constitution, okay? And frankly, people died for that purpose, for our freedoms. People died in our country for our freedoms. So basically, what critical race thinking skews our thinking. Okay, so what happened when it came in the 1960s? With this woman, she happened to be a woman. She's pushing it forward in academia. What happened in the 70s? Women were trying to push for their rights under Roe versus Wade. You have this critical race theorist perpetuating a woman's right to choose, and think about how that entangled. I can talk about that at another time. But that was pretty interesting that happened at the same time. I find that very interesting. Okay, so all right, so where we would have common sense, it was kicked out. Where we would use deductive reasoning, it was minimized. So one of the things that I pushed forward was that it was minimized. It started to minimize your deductive reasoning, and I kept always saying that why don't people have common sense? Why aren't they implementing common sense? Well, if you are inundated to the fact that under Marxism, people don't matter, life doesn't matter, life is not valuable, your processes of thinking are going to diminish. Okay, so going back to the 1960s and 70s, or women's right to choose, well, guess what? Under this Marxist thing, okay, life does not matter. It is not valuable. Isn't it interesting how women were pushing forward their right to choose what goes on with their body and an unborn baby at this period of time? Please make the connection. Okay, it's being skewed. Okay, and that whole story, I'll go in there. I'd love to go in there with you. Okay, so before this happened, we were teaching people and our kids that all life matters, all people matter. We were teaching this. It's not being done anymore. It's not a priority. Okay, so the next attribute, so I wanted to get into this, but I'm trying to think how I'm going to bridge this. All right, so the next point is that racism, and this is under the Marxist critical race theory, racism is everywhere. It is a theory, people. Critical race theory is a theory that says in its second attribute that racism is everywhere. It is everywhere. That's what they're saying, okay? No institution, no company, no conversation out there is not full of racism, okay? If you live in any area in the Western society, aka the USA, which was formed, they believe that it was formed by white supremacy. I have to go back there and say, hey, folks, did you ever see the dollar bill? Okay, the dollar bill. Or in God we trust, okay? Or the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. where is your brain? This theory right here just nixes that whole concept just right there. If it was built on in God, in white people we trust, right? Right? I pledge allegiance to the white person. That's where they miss the boat. We are a nation formed under God, indivisible, with freedom, which is liberty, and justice for all. That is our Pledge of Allegiance as an American, as a person from the United States. Basically, critical race theory or Marxist theory, they don't want to deal with biblical-based all lives matter. They don't want to, because I just told you under the first one that life under the Marxist ideology, life does not really matter. It is not valuable. Okay, so they don't want to deal with this. I've even seen a couple of, I don't really get on TikTok, but another news source played something and they said, if you say all lives matter one more time, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, wait a minute. People do matter. Our foundation is based that way. You have been buying a lie under critical race theory. It is only a theory. Okay? Anyway, they basically say that under critical race theory, we can't justify that life matters. What else? That the biblical based all lives matters. They basically say we're not going to address it. We're going to blow it up. That's what a critical race theorist. Is it unifying? The third attribute to critical race theory, they believe that dialogue is evil. What is that regarding someone who has a brain created in the image of God? They have a thinking process. What are they saying? That any dialogue, to me, any dialogue can grow your thoughts, can grow your perceptions, can grow you across the board. So basically, if you're talking about something, if you're questioning it, they do not believe in conversations or engaging in debates. Again, in the Western culture, all people matter. So if our Western culture was founded on God's principles, you have to look at the fact of what are God's principles? Well, when Jesus Christ came to this earth and walked this earth, guess what he did? He initiated and he guided and he helped perpetuate conversation, dialogue, interaction. He interacted with, the pauper, the wealthy businessman, the intellectual. He got to the heart of matters, and he got people interacting and asking questions. This one really gets me because I know this about my own education. Critical race theory does not want you to challenge. Okay? It doesn't want you to challenge. So if you've been in the school system, basically they want you to grab what they're saying, regurgitate it, and get an A. You cannot question, hey, I got a question here. You're shut down. Okay, you're not expanded on that theory or that problem solving or that formula. You're not taught to expand on that. Okay, so in critical race theory, they don't want you to engage. It's evil to engage in conversation. And what does that really do? Okay, if you are not taught to engage in a conversation, to question something, if you're not taught, what does that really do? Well, basically, it creates apathy. Okay, you're just like, oh, well, I'm not going to interact here. I'm learning not to interact here. It creates passivity too. Okay, I used to always say, where are guys koyoings on stuff. Why don't they address it? I used to always say, oh God, why can't we talk about this thing? And I'm talking whether it's family or friends or we have to be polite, you know? No, there's so much freaking apathy and passivity in our country. And I finally figured out why. We were taught that. We were taught to be passive. We were taught apathy. And guess what this does? Over time, it creates disunity. It creates us to like, I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to address this. I'm going to be polite because you don't know where they're coming from. Well, of course I don't know where they're coming from because I'm not addressing it. I'm not asking them. Okay? So we are taught this. We've been taught this, and it's been a lie. And guess where it started from? I'm going to give you her name again. Her name is Angela Davis. Angela Davis brought this to our country. She should be shot. I'm sorry. I'm not threatening her life. She's probably dead. Okay? But you know what? She has hurt our society as American people. Probably one of the worst scenarios we have. Okay? I'm so fed up. I'm such a good person that I just, whatever. Okay, so all right, so let's go back. Critical race theory creates apathy. It creates passivity. It creates disunity. Well, if there's no motivation to create conversation and people are passive, there's no bridging taking place. There's only more division and there's no growth. So, like I said, critical race theory teaches you to regurgitate data only, and it does not want you to have deductive reasoning or challenge. You can't argue in class. I believe a good debate brings growth. You know, I've noticed that the different cultures I sat in, I mean, sometimes I just want to, okay, they don't know this stuff, but I sit and I sit and I sit. I'm like, I didn't know that. Oh my God. I'm in a Southern culture right now. I've never been in a Southern culture, living inside of it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I understand why some of it. I don't understand a lot of it, but I'm willing to sit and listen and understand, okay, that's where you're coming from. That makes a lot of sense from where you're coming from. And I can bridge myself to that culture because I'm not afraid to say that and be that and do that. Okay, the big one that I thought was interesting that I came up with through Charlie was, if you are taught not to engage in conversation and you don't have the skills to address and you're apathetic to start a conversation with somebody, you have an out. The latest, most popular out is, oh, that's fake news. Critical race theorists came up with that one, I think. I believe so. Fake news. And fake news is also conspiracy theories. So they've got this little out to shut down the conversation. Let's split. They're just conspiracy theorists. They don't want to engage. They don't have the tools to engage with you people. They don't have the tools to bridge. They don't have the tools to say, hey, let's have a fair debate without. They don't have the skills and they don't want them. They believe that they're doing and what they're saying is right, but it's a theory that they're believing. It is a theory. Critical race theorists are working a theory only, and they've working it so that they believe that it works for them. I think that's just a wonderful way to put that. Let me go over here. So, all right. Okay, so the fourth attribute, and there's so much more that Charlie Kirk says about this, you know, critical race theory under number 3. Check out my video, okay? So the fourth attribute is totalitarianism. Okay, so basically this totalitarian system everyone is a monotone person. No person has value. Zero value. All people have zero value. No matter what you do, it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. It's not what you say, it's what you don't say. It doesn't matter anything here. It's not about you at all, because you don't matter at all. Your personal existence does not matter. The other thing is, if you don't literally listen and do what they tell you to, they're going to come after you. And I like what, I believe it was Charlie Kirk or Dan Bongino said. They said, okay, so you think it's only, you're going to be the good obedient one under totalitarianism? Eventually, those who are coming after the ones who aren't following the norm are not going to exist anymore. Those people like me. And where are they going to come after? They're going to come after you too, okay? So don't you think for a second that because you're not standing up for your rights and your value systems, okay, that you're not going to they're not going to come after you. Yes, they are, okay? I believe that because it is a big union, I believe the National Education Association serves the critical race theory agenda. They're getting beaucoup millions of dollars because of it, and we have bought into this hook, line, and sinker. I think that this is terrible, and I want you to know that the NEA is after your kids' freedoms and their identity and their personal value systems. And if you don't get on this, people, you're not going to have your kids. The future is like in the toilet. And that's just part of it. Okay, so the fifth attribute. Okay. The fifth attribute to critical race theory, Marxism, is that science, mathematics, reason, imperialism are all instruments of white supremacy. All of them. We're talking science and mathematics. We're talking reason. We're talking imperialism. We're talking capitalism. And the Marxist critical race theory says that basically it keeps white people in power. If this is true, people, if this is true, my question to you, if this is the case, why was it that back in the 1950s and 60s, beautiful, articulate, holy Moses, brainiac black women were on the panel for NASA? They were mathematicians. Why? Yes, they weren't, They weren't acknowledged, which they should have been, but I'm acknowledging that. People have a choice to want to gain education and wisdom. We all have it. That's a freedom that we have. So, do you think that all of these attributes from critical race theory are nuts? Of course, they are, because they're stripping your freedoms away. They're stripping you. It's ridiculous. Sorry, my throat is sore. For me to see this and be awoken to it, I did not know, and so I was trying to push myself on my family and things, and my friends, and you can call it whatever you want, but people who are ingrained in critical race theory, which is most of us, they don't know how to reach out and know that this theory is a freaking lie. It's a farce, okay? And this is all going on in grade school now, in middle school, in high school, in our colleges, in business. There was I guess under Charlie Kirk, there were a couple of scientists that were atheists, and they're now woken because they believe that speech and science and math and reason are important because they bring unity. And there's a whole concept that I have. I want you to go see my other video called Theory versus Absolute Truth. That's another good one. So at this point, I want to bridge all of this critical race theory to, oh my goodness, experiment. Okay, so basically, the word experiment is part of the scientific process. It's not its own little device or its step inside of another process of something. So first, if you look at the scientific model, a basic one, it is you write out a hypothesis to a question that you have and you want to prove the outcome. And then from there, you get the tools, what is needed to prove this or to test it. And the testing process is called the experimental phase. And during that experimental phase is the collection of data, the proving the pros and the cons, the listing of the data, and finally the ending process is the resolution or the conclusion of the experiment of the whole scientific model. Okay, so that being said, we have two issues at play in the United States that are always in front of our face. The first one is division through critical race theory, and the vaccine and or COVID problem that we haven't even gotten a handle on what it is, but we have a vaccine. Well, look at your data, people. I can list everybody. Oh my gosh, Sherry Tannenbaum, Dr. Rashad Buttar. There's a whole list of people. There's roughly 50,000 scientists that work with a bunch of people that I'm researching. But what I want to tell you is the reality of this thrust for you to take a vaccine that is still in its experimental phase. There's got to be something going on. Okay, because a vaccine has its process like I just explained. And this vaccine that we're putting out there, I don't care who says what the data is that we've tested this, it is not conclusive. All 4 or 5 vaccines that are being pushed on you, they are all in their experimental phase, and we do not know the long-term side effects. And to make a vaccine that is in its experimental phase is available to you, and you're taking it, you're basically a guinea pig. I don't care if it's one person or 300 million people. We do not know the side effects, the long-term side effects. It's not conclusive. So to say that this thing is going to help you because you don't have initial side effects does not mean that you're not going to have them. And the research proves that this is not a healthy thing for people. Why am I saying this? Because there's got to be a reason why we have the push for the critical race theory, the push for you to have a vaccine in your person, and other agendas. But these two are put forth to you as something like it's inundated. You are being so inundated to take this, and you're starting to believe that it's a norm, okay? Because of who is pushing it forward. So there's a lot to say about that, because if you look at the WHO, I'm going to do a whole thing about them. I'm just perplexed. And all of its annexed moneymakers and pharma and the CDC, they're all part of it. It's all part of it. And the major media, there is a thrust for America to take the vaccine. I have not seen numbers coming into the United States from other countries about COVID. I mean, real legitimate ones that are saying that there's, the numbers that are being taken, that people are taking vaccines. It's very small. I have put my input out there to Colombia, to Haiti, to Holland, to Africa, and it is very funny the perspective that these countries have. I'm looking at Norway too. I'm going to look at Holland too. I have people in different countries. What I'm trying to tell you is that there is a mindset that's being pushed on us as Americans for specific reasons, because it's not happening over in these other countries, and the disease or the virus has curtailed itself in a lot of areas. And guess what? I'm learning that the focus isn't on those other countries, it's on us. So the vaccines aren't going over there because the focus isn't over there. It's on us. Why is the focus to get a vaccine on us? And it's not on these other countries. And you know what a mindset that I found out? At least 2 countries? We have such big issues about just survival, like poverty, and do we have any food in our stomach, that we can't even think about wanting to have a vaccine. They've prioritized it. They've prioritized because their numbers are so minuscule, and ours are too, but we are sensationalizing some numbers because there's a reason why they're pushing you to get a freaking vaccine. These other countries, they're not pushing this. They're not pushing it in Africa. You know why? The phrase is over in Africa. Nobody cares about Africa. And their numbers are way down. Okay? So why is that? It's because people want America to fold. They want us to fold, and they don't want us to stand up for ourselves. They don't want us to stand and unite. They want to divide. The other issue that we have is an open borders, and it is a severe abuse of power because it's terrible down there. You don't hear it. Why don't you hear it? You should be questioning why you don't hear from other countries and why you don't hear about the border, and there's only a few people that are putting this out. There are reasons, people. It's time to unite. If you need any input, I'll try my best to get some to you. Data, people. Theory and experiment. Get a hold of the fact that this is a theory, and you're buying someone who came into this country's theory. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. I have been part of many cultures, and I might be ignorant, but I'm not racist, and I'm not white supremacist. These are just catchwords to piss you off and divide. And if you can grab a hold of that, you'll grab a hold who's instigating that. Who's calling who a fascist? Who's calling who? At this point, we have communism, real communism here. We have real communism and real fascism here as a result of opening up our borders, as a result of buying into this critical race theory, and we bought it in our policies. We've bought it in our hierarchical Harvard School of Laws. We have bought it as a norm, and it is a farce. It is a farce theory, and it will divide and conquer us if we let it. My name is Catherine Isabel Jennings. Your life matters. This has been Your Life Matters News and Comment. Please wake up and kick out critical race theory. Wake up and kick out what an experimental vaccine is. It's going to hurt you. And I care about you. Have a good day, or convo me. Please subscribe if you like these videos, and please forward them. Thanks.